me leave it with you. See you in an hourish. All right, let's go. So now we will continue our journey. Over the last few weeks, we've been exploring what is a soul. And we have been looking at that the soul is a field of potential. Yet it does not know that it is full potential. It believes that it is bound by past experiences and memories. Its life is about exploring and finding out more experience of life. It is always on a journey to find its way back home, only to realize that it was always home in the first place. We have looked at the way memory is almost your karma, that it creates your future and also creates your physicality, not just the world in front of you, but even your body. We looked at the truth of spirit is full awareness, but the truth of soul is localized awareness. The soul is only aware of what's occurring around it. But as the soul expands and consciousness expands or becomes what it truly is, as the barriers drop, then that awareness can expand. So as your barriers start to fall down, then your awareness increases from being what is occurring to you to insights about what is occurring for others. We also said that the soul has access to knowledge, but it does not know this. But the spirit does have access to all that knowledge. And there is a field of love. The love, when it is localized, is just for you. But when the awareness comes into its own being, it is for everybody. So let's carry on our journey and see where the error lies. I will return at the end. Now, before I've used the picture, the analogy, the drawing, the painting, to say that the Great Spirit is kind of like an ocean, or if you want, a lake. And the individual thinks it's a corner of it, thinks it's the corner of the ocean. So let's carry on with this analogy. And we'll expand it still further. So if you think about the whole ocean, everything exists within the ocean, doesn't it? All the fishes are inside it, all the water, the shells, the seaweed, and everything. Everything exists within. And also the ocean is within whatever is within. So the ocean's inside the fish as much as it is outside the fish. So it's very difficult, really, to define where fish starts and fish ends, because water's all the way through it. Anyway, let's carry on a bit further. So the individual thinks it's a corner of the ocean. So this little corner over here. And it thinks to itself, well, everything within this corner is mine. And all the shells, all the water, all the fishes, that's mine. I can do with them what I like, and they are all to be kept very closely to hand, because if I can gain extra fishes, then obviously I'm doing something good. And if I lose a fish, well, it's a bit of a drama. So then, because it thinks everything within it is really a definition of it, it starts to build a wall around that corner of the ocean. It's an imaginary wall, but it says, well, I'm going to block everything off, keep everything for me, and then I'll let the fishes come in, but I'm not going to let any go out. I'm just going to gain. So then it becomes protective. It has ownership. It thinks that it's me. Thinks that how shiny the rocks are is a reflection of itself. This is what you do. You think that your corner of the world is just you. And you just think that your corner floats around and bumps into other corners, if you know what I mean, other people. And the two interact and overlap for a while, and one helps another, and then the other hurts the first one, and all that malarkey. But then everything gets defined by boundaries. Then not only do people have boundaries, but of course countries have boundaries, communities. Then there's a boundary of, let's say, certain religions and certain football teams, and boundaries of certain politics. And you think these boundaries are the important bit. So then mankind constantly needs to reaffirm the boundaries, make them bigger and better. When you get so involved in your corner of the ocean, you think there's not other corners. You think, well, my corner's working all right, therefore I am better than the others. And because my corner is all nice and peaceful, those who have problematic corners are less. And I've got 10 fishes, you've only got 5, so therefore I am a superstar. I am famous. Yeah, none of it's true, is it? When you look at it like this, it ain't true at all. It's just perception, and it's just the way you want to look at things, the way you want to divide up the cake as such. You can divide up the cake into 4 or 8 or even 24 segments, but it's still a cake, isn't it? It's still exactly the same. You see, the corners bit, and the thinking you're individual, and you're thinking that, oh, everything affects me, is where it all seems to go wrong. So you think that the more I have, the better I am, the more I lose, the worse I am. I'm talking material things, but there's other considerations. So then the chase is on to become bigger and better. And then you hear voices which says, oh, you will be better if you do this. You're a better person. Your corner of the ocean is going to look magnificent if you just have shiny rocks. And you follow the belief, and it just ends up being more pain. Because as soon as you look shiny, your bit, well, somebody else will always look more shiny. Somebody else always has more fish than you. Somebody else's life is always calmer to your rough seas. Take a step back from the planet, if you could, and sit on the moon with a nice little deck chair and a book, and look back on the earth and say, there you go. What sense does it one corner's one person and one corner's another? Look, there's a line down there that divides them. Them on the left have one thing and them on the right are another. It don't make no sense. So you see, half your life, and really most of your existence, is gaining, let's say, more and more fish or more and more shiny rocks, or making your corner look nicer. Until you come to a decision that well, it ain't working. The more I have, the more I want. If I have one type of car, I want the next biggest afterwards. Where's the sense in that? You see, that is why what you reaffirm. This is then becomes your astral world of evolution, your karmic world. You live according to what you've done on the inside. How well has the ocean looked after the fish in that corner? That's a reflection of you think. So then you say to yourself, all right, I've got to figure this out. I've got to become better. I've got to become a better bit of ocean so I can have more love and compassion for the fishes I've got. So your astral world then is an evolution of polishing your bit of corner of the ocean. And you begin looking for more and more experiences until one day you figure it out and say, do you know what? That ain't right at all. And even within your life, you could probably see some vague semblance of this. The first half of your life, let's say, nice round 40 years, you gather. I'll add lots more to it. And the second half of your life is you let go. You start to declutter, get rid of things, come back to what's important. You see, that corner of the ocean, after a while, begins to look at itself. And everything it's picked up, it starts to let go of. See, the first half of the life is the building of what you call ego, and the second half of the life is, if you're doing it right, is the letting go of it. Now, it don't happen so quickly, but in essence, that's what you're doing. You're knocking down that wall to the corner of the ocean, and you realise it was an imaginary wall in the first place. And then after a while, the soul becomes the spirit, the corner becomes the whole. Only to realise that's how it was right from the very start. You see, all the spiritual qualities you could ever want, if we've got to define things right down to the nitty-gritty bits, are never about gaining more, reaffirming all this wall around you. It's like defining your own boundaries. Yeah, you can, and you will feel safer within your boundary, and it has some application within your physical life, Within your spiritual life, it's about not having boundaries. It's about not having a little corner. And all the qualities are all about letting go and expanding your awareness from local to, well, more than local. And you'll know that which one you're following by how much agitation there is in your mind. Are you easily disturbed? Within your mind, I mean. You think, well, what's that got to do with it? Well, the disturbance in your mind really is just showing you that you're trying to hold on to something. Or trying to have some expectation to make things work a certain way. You see, your anger, when there's times where you feel angry over things, well, it's really an expectation that you want something to work a certain way. It's your desire that creates your anger. I want them to put away their shoes. Angry, angry, angry. You've left your shoes out. If you'd never had the expectation that you want shoes to be in a certain corner in a certain way, then the frustration doesn't happen. See, the agitation in the mind is because of belief and expectation that there is a corner of the ocean. And you've got to keep it all neat and ship-shape. But when you fall into the Great Spirit, you just accept everything the way it is. Because it doesn't matter. If somebody's having an experience of messy shoes, then it doesn't affect me one little bit, but I might watch it and find out what happens. So you see, when you've got a corner of the ocean, you've got conditional love. And when you haven't got any corners, then you've got unconditional love. You see, parents, and we always say mother, but father as well. Parents love their children without any reason, without any necessity. They don't have to conform a certain way. They love them anyway, don't they? But if your child was to do something really nasty, you wouldn't like what they did, and that would be offensive. But you'd still love them. That's unconditional, isn't it? But some people put those boundaries around things. As I've said before, just makes it all, I'll love you as long as you fit in this little box and do not move. And that's why you don't, or you find it hard to love yourself. Because you're busy keeping your boundaries and keeping your corner all nice and ship-shape, that you forget about it don't really matter. Your love for yourself is very conditional, very performance-based, if you want. In one of the groups, there was a meditation that was done, which says, right, what we're going to do, we're going to take you out of here and we're going to show you what it's like away. And we took you on a brief journey and say, look, this is what it's like, spirit. And all we did in the meditation was say, all right, let's let go of this. I let go of the other, I let go of the other thing, and let go of that, and let go of all those niggly pains you've got. Let go of the need to conform to this for a while, and drop away that. We didn't say, all right, I'm going to give you a magic pill. You see, it's the holding on which stops you. And it's the letting go which gives you everything you want. It's the same with your mind. The holding on gives you limited. The letting go gives you unlimited. It's the same with your mediumship. Trying to make something happen and then just letting spirit do the work. It takes a little drop in your ego to let spirit do the work. Because your ego wants to make things happen certain ways, in certain colours, in certain forms. And your ego then wants to, when it's all finished, say, how did I do? Was I good? Was I bad? That is, again, trying to polish the rocks on your corner of the ocean. So all of it is really, well, more enhanced by letting go. And this is what is meant by be the lily in the field. Everything is fully supported, everything has everything. Nobody is any worse off than anybody else in who they are. Their life or their mind tries to create certain experiences for their own growth. And the memory then defines different aspects of it. So you could do a quick experiment. And the experiment is, well, if I didn't worry about a certain thing, what would happen? Now, your first reaction is, let's say you've got an exam and you think, well, I'm not worried about it. I won't bother doing the work. What would happen? Well, let's say what would happen is you'd either pass or you'd fail, or maybe somewhere in between. Are you a better person if you pass or if you fail? Of course, you ain't a better person, but the expectation is you are better if you get an A as opposed to a B or a C. It ain't true. If you begin in life, then you think it is true. If you're coming through these life lessons and, let's say, a little bit past the midway point, well, you know now, don't you? You know now, and maybe it's just that, well, I've learned it, I've got this experience now, but you do know now that although things can make your life easier or harder, then you are not a better person. The way you love and the connection of others is the better person bit. And what is love but the pulling together of two people or more people? Is that not just getting nearer and nearer to the oneness, the whole, the spirit? Often you can think the spirit will let you down. You think, well, I've turned up and they haven't. Or I've got to do a healing, but there ain't nobody here to do it for me. Or no matter how much I try, I can't make a connection. Now, can you see the answer for yourself? That's the bit. Can you see that in this case there is that building of the boundary? Gives the false belief that what I need is the other side of the boundary. So when you first start this work, it feels like a long chipping away process at a brick wall. The chip, chip, chip to knock down a stone, and then another, and then another. But the shortcut is just not to see the wall in the first place. And that's easier said than done, isn't it? We're always there. You just believe we ain't because you put this wall around the corner of the ocean. We can't not be there. We can't not be there. It's impossible. But you can block us, or think you can block us. Your loved ones in spirit cannot be anywhere else but right on your side. Your guides can never be in another room. There always has to be in your room. The deities of different gods or evolved beings ain't nowhere else. They are you. You are as much, let us say, Gandhi or Mother Teresa or Buddha or Jesus. You are them. They are you. Because it's all one. Just think you ain't. How can everything be one except Buddha? Everything's one except for that dude over there. Everything's one except for that one over the other side as well. There's 1 + 1 in, isn't there? Or 1 + 2 or 3. The spirit is whole. The soul thinks it's not. So you see now, you kind of have two minds. You know, you have the mind which thinks locally and the mind which doesn't. The mind that thinks it's all about what goes on in this bit of the corner and only sees this bit. See, there's all sorts of experiments which have proved this. And you can look at different scientists and say, well, how come I invent it over here and there's somebody over there also doing it? Or how come I can train a rat here and the other rat on the other side of the world seems to figure it out a lot quicker once this one's learned? How can you do a message or a healing to somebody on the other side of the world? You know you can. And I'm sure many of you have done it. You just got to stop believing that you can't. And you just got to see what is the wall in the way and see that it's just a belief that's founded in, well, confusion, I suppose. So you see, you have access to everything. Your corner of the ocean can have the biggest creatures and the smallest. Can have everything that exists if you can just let it be. And isn't that then a description of mediumship? Isn't that then just a description of why you can, all right, I've got your grandmother here, your mother's here as well, I've got them all. Well, of course you've got them all. They ain't gone nowhere. You know? See, it's the body that disappears. That's a kind of like the corner of the ocean, isn't it? The body and the belief in that corner. That's what gradually disappears in time. The body goes instantly, if you know what I mean, the attachment to it. The mind then's got to battle through its corners, all its issues that makes this corner, but even after death, it's got to come to the realization of everything is connected as one. You see, I said right at the beginning that there is knowledge, there is consciousness, and then what we're saying is bliss or love or joy. All of these are the qualities that are available. And all of them are available to you. You can be happy like no tomorrow if you just let go of some of your bits, and we proved it in different classes. Those of you who attended the other classes have an indication of what this could be like. Those of you who struggled know that it was your mind that was holding you back. The holding on. When you got to let go. You see, somebody once described it as getting to the edge of the cliff, by gradually slipping off the side but holding onto the edge. And holding onto the edge, and then somebody says, just let one finger go, and then another finger, and then another. And your mind says, what's at the bottom of the fall? Is it rocks? Am I going to hurt myself? Well, you already know the end of that story. The holding on is what causes the pain, isn't it? How painful will your fingers be after half an hour of doing that? Feeling of release. So if you think about some situations in your life, if you just let go of what the expectations are, your own expectations. You're going to say to me, yeah, but I've got a grumpy boss, I've got to perform certain ways, I've got to get deadlines met, and I have to do it in a certain way, in a certain colour, in a certain order. And you're just telling me to let go, not to bother. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the ocean is not worried about the performance of one corner. You as a real person will not be improved or deflated by ticking all the boxes correctly or not. But you feel like you have to live life, and you have to earn some money, and you have to live a certain way. Well, until you're ready to totally let go and to move on, then all you do is bring the wholeness into the individualness. To realise that this little corner of the ocean is playing its own game of Well, conformity to the rules of the boss that you work for. So you bring your awareness of everything into the limited. First, connect to what is complete to work with what is incomplete. Do you remember? Oh, I don't know, maybe even 9 or 10 or 12 months ago, you got given an exercise to try. And I've got to tell you, since then, a lot of people have made a lot out of this exercise and have achieved many good things. But I bet you've forgotten. This exercise I'll remind you about is that very process of bringing what is complete to what isn't. And it's as simple as build up the love in your heart before you act. In essence, what you're doing is connecting to the truth and let the truth shine onto the illusion. Let the whole ocean be your drive, if you like, your driving factor. And let that influence the corner. Let the realization that I'm whole and complete, let it influence the unconditional love. You see, this is why giving and receiving are the same thing. It's exactly the same thing to give and to receive. You think somebody's giving you $10 and one's $10 less and one's $10 more, or one person. But how can it be true if it's all one? Anyway, let's get back. Build up the love before your action. Now, this doesn't say build up the love and send it to somebody. It just says build up the love. If you want to change it and you're not a love person, build up peace in your heart. Be calm. It's not too hard to imagine, is it? If you're calm on the inside and your boss says, right, you got a deadline, you got to get these 5 things done by 5 o'clock. And when there's peace on the inside, you accomplish the tasks easier, better, more efficiently, probably more accurately. When there's panic on the inside, it's different. When all of a sudden you've got to do 20 things in a day when you're used to doing 2 or 3, bring peace to the activity. I will not sell my peace today, no matter how busy I'm going to be. When somebody is all upset and they come to you shouting and say, you're a bad person, you've not filled my form out right, and have peace in your heart. Do not give it away. And you'll notice their anger just dissolves a whole quicker, a whole lot quicker. You see, what you're doing is you're bringing the spirit to the soul, if you know what I mean, or the spirit to the body, or you're manifesting spirit into the human world. And once you affirm this channel up, it's like It's like a channel, a gateway, a little way water runs, and it becomes easier and easier and more natural and natural until you decide to block it up and not believe it. And then you go back to your old beliefs. This is bringing your big spirit to your little soul. And I think in your head, you're sitting there going, yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, lovely. But I'm just going to carry on the way I am. Well, that's up to you. Find out if I'm telling you the truth or not. Find out if you build up love or peace or happiness in your heart. How does your world around you change? Or do the opposite, build up anger, rage, frustration in your heart, and then do something and see what happens in if you want. Tell you the other way's easier. If you want to do that way, do that way. You see, what was the exercise given to you a long while ago? Every time you walk through a door, or every time you sit down, remember. All this was just to build up that link and that channel, remind you, I am spirit if you want, or I am love, or I am joy. And we can go into a lot more detail, but you don't need it. You just got to build up that in you. Be the spirit and not the soul. And that's a big step. You see, the biggest step is realizing in the first place that there's more than just the body. And this is what turns the head, if you like, towards the light. That the person starts looking inside and says, well, there's something else here. If I'm not going crazy, then I think there's something else. And then some of you get all sorts of signs, don't you? Get a knock on the wall, a light, a colour. Maybe your broomstick flies around by itself. Or some of you need a more stronger message. Come on, come back to who you are. You see, that when you first kind of find spirit stuff, let's call it spirituality or spiritualism or spiritism, then it all becomes, oh, let's find it. Let's find if it's true. Let's see if I can do it. Let's see if I can make something happen. Let's see if I can connect and send healing or messages or something. And this is you wanting confirmation. Is it true? Can it work? Does it work? But once you get that faith inside you, that it does work, it is possible, then your next bit is, well, how should I live? What does it mean? What's the truth underneath it? So it changes from messages into, let's say, practicalities of living life, or philosophy, if you want. Now, because you're listening to this, you're somewhere in that process, ain't you? You're somewhere in, well, I found spirit, but what am I going to do about it? You know, some of you are wanting a bigger and better connection. Well, what you're going to do about it is build up the love before you act. And do you know what? There's hundreds of little practices, but This is as good as it gets. Try, if you've got to go to the dentist tomorrow, try loving your dentist before he operates. That's a big test, isn't it? Will the dentist do anything better or worse? Will the taxman do anything better? Or your grumpy boss? Find out for yourself. And then you're taking that step across the wall and you're living in the big ocean rather than just the corner. Do you know what? And then you look back at others who have got corners of the ocean, and you look back at your old self, and you look back on what you believed then, and you say, how silly was that? It was just a game we were playing over in the corner. It's like two young kids playing some game with sticks and stones. And don't they say to you, when you pass on, all you can take is the love. You can't take your bank balance, your car ain't coming with you. That new pair of shoes that you like that you're not wearing because you're keeping them for best. Bad news, love. Can't take them with you. If you're in the astral realm, you'll create another pair. Eventually, you've got to let them go and all. So isn't that saying then, all you can take with you is a love? Well, isn't that exactly the same thing? Why don't you just build the love of spirit now? See, that corner of the ocean is your ego. You can see it by every time you claim something. Or even try to reject something. I am wonderful. I am hurt. I have $1 million. I have $10. I am famous and I am nobody. Surely you can see that now with this little story. And surely in your art right now, if you were to put all your attention on your art, am I telling you the truth or not? Am I pointing you in a direction that you're willing to go or not? Well, this is what I'm telling you. You're all going to go that way. You're all going to step into the big ocean. Just how long it takes you is up to you. You can play around in your mind as long as you like. Shining rocks for as long as you want. Telling the little fishes they've got to behave. Otherwise, then I don't look as good. You see, let's go back. I'm going to go back around 2 years. The story I gave then, and it was me that did it, was what's really happening. I put it in a slightly different way then. It's like a man that sticks his head in the ocean and he watches everything going on in the ocean, all the little fishes doing this and doing that, and deciding that there needs to be a big television over in one corner. And all he has to do is lift his head out of the ocean to realise what the truth is. Although it's a different way of explaining it, it's exactly the same story. I used to call it Charlie Fish back then. now. So my little recommendation is to do that exercise I offered you. Just see if it makes a difference or not. It's far easier than doing the opposite exercise, I can tell you now. And all of it comes back to awareness. Watching. Watching what happens when you do or when you don't. That act of awareness, the act of watching, of course, is consciousness, and that is who you are as well. So we've got a break next week. So till then, have a lovely day. Ta-ra. Whether you sell everything you have and go live in a cave or not is not the point. The point is, how much spirit can you bring into your life? And that question alone is one of understanding. Would you ever say, well, I'll only bring 10% of spirit into my life today? Or would you say, I will bring all of it? And then 5 minutes later, you would go into your mode of anger or depression or frustration. Just be what you are meant to be. Be who you are. Stop playing small. Be the light. Be the real self. All of these are pointing in the same direction. So as was said, there is a week's break and we will return the following for a new topic. Please try. God bless you all. May peace be within your hearts. It's a watery